Good morning. We would like to welcome you on the second day of our physical/online meeting organized in the context of the Esmartcity project. We would like to inform you, for those of you who are connected online, continuous technical support is being provided, and for those who physically attend, in the Western Greece Regional Board venue, we have received all measures for the prevention of COVID-19 transmission. You should know that any personal data processing takes place in the context of our conference and is always in compliance with the GDPR and the applicable law. I would like now to give the floor to Ms. Makri. She is the moderator for the Esmartcity project on behalf of the region of Western Greece. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank all the participants, either online or physically present. With no further ado, I would like to give the floor to the head of the region of Western Greece, Mr. Karmakis. He has joined us today in order to address a brief introduction, as well as Mr. Dimitrianis, the deputy head of region in the region of Western Greece. Thank you very much for your presence here. Head of region, you have the floor. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us in this final presentation of the Esmartcity. It is the second and last day of this conference, and I do hope that we will have the opportunity to work together again in an effective way on the modern technology applications. Policy makers and designers, those who work towards this direction, and all those who contribute with their scientific and technical expertise, those who contribute in networking and transnational collaboration, those who claim new tools in order for our region, city and municipality move towards a new reality. Solutions that will ensure sustainable development and management, better quality of life without wasting natural resources. We are seeking an equal opportunity society. And is smart city, okay, this is an attractive term. It is even more attractive once you realize how many applications that have an impact on our daily lives can be further improved thanks to modern technology. And this is not just a theoretical approach. This happens thanks to practices that already apply in other countries. Unfortunately, the latest developments with the pandemic force us to host this hybrid event with both physical and online presence, because we know that on top of all, what matters is to ensure that all participants remain safe. We are sure that at the end of this event, we will have achieved and accomplished the main goal, which is to understand, realize and listen to what has been implemented throughout those years, and above all, how this initiative will continue in the future. Esmartcity focuses on the improvement of the innovation capacity of cities in a highly competitive environment, as well as on how we determine innovation or the smart character of a city. A city is smart when its investments in human and social capital build on a cohesion policy and a policy of equal opportunities, when traditional and modern communication infrastructure and urban networks give rise to a strategy for sustainable development. A city is smart when it does not impede or obstruct public transportation, when it is a city that is user-friendly and offers alternative and high-quality solutions for leisure. A city is smart when it plans ahead. The transition from the standard, the model of the previous years, towards a balanced development process that will be relevant both to the present and tomorrow, it's what we are trying to achieve. We want to achieve management where environmental protection, social care have a special role to play and affect decision-making. This transition will only be possible if we realize that cities are living organisms. They cannot press pause and step back. They keep developing, so we need to change our approach in order to adopt a sustainability model that will be built gradually. from scratch. No automation is included. We need reciprocal and common understanding and collaboration so that businesses, citizens, and academia and public authorities gradually adopt this and embrace this new perception. And of course, in smart cities, citizens, academia, businesses and public authorities form the four helixes of this program. In order for our project to achieve its goals, we ran pilots, smart urban regions-related pilots about public lighting and smart buildings. This is not a random choice. It is a choice of pilots that are highly relevant to us, that have a high impact on our daily lives, and this helps us understand what we have been talking about. Those issues are relevant to us and play a key role in our daily lives. In the region of Western Greece, in the context of Esmartcity pilots, we have installed 28 smart electricity consumption meters throughout the region. Out of those meters, we receive measurements per minute, so we know which is the active and idle energy consumption, the voltage, and of course we know when and why consumption is high and what we can do in order to improve the terms of operation of those buildings, in order to have a more streamlined, rationalized model of operation. An electromobility plan has been developed, and this has been an example for all Mediterranean region with regards to electromobility. And what we have all discussed is that we're still lagging behind compared to other EU member states. Similar pilots have been implemented by all stakeholders in this project, and we drew the relevant conclusions that were, of course, considered when drafting the green paper for the change of innovation policy. And this paper includes policy and investment priorities proposals in order to boost innovation and the sustainability of smart cities. When it comes to those deliverables, my colleagues will further elaborate on that throughout the conference. At this point, I would just like to highlight the importance of exchanging know-how and expertise with European countries. I know that we share many things, we have many things in common, and I know that technological developments allow us to embrace better terms of daily operation in order to protect natural environment and social cohesion. Regardless of any problems that cities might be faced with, depending on the pilots, and it describes in detail all the proposals for the change of existing strategies, proposals that can't be applied, that can't be implemented, that have been tested elsewhere and are in direct synergy and compliance with the new goals of the new funding period 2021-2027, and we all need to consider them very carefully. Today, smart lighting and energy-efficient buildings, the first electric diesel ferry boat in Greece, circular economy, blue economy, system, and new things about agriculture stand out, and those are only a few topics that will be addressed by speakers today. Lastly, a presentation will be given by the special consultant, special advisory to the minister, who is competent to talk about circular economy at DG ENV, Mr. Kremlis. We'll talk about smart city in the framework of Next Generation EU. We are graced with his presence today. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Head. I don't know if Mr. Mitrogiannis would like to address you shortly. Well, first of all, thank you. I would like to thank the head of the region for joining us today. And this is highly indicative of our will to capitalize on the European projects we are involved in. Like I said yesterday, and the only thing I would like to add or rather repeat, is that projects such as Esmartcity are highly useful and multi-purpose tools that can be used across many sectors and fields. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Kremlis. It's a special honor for us to have him here with us in this conference. Mr. Kremlis, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you today.
You will allow me to speak for a bit in Greek, since my presentation will be done in English. I would like to congratulate the head of the region, the deputy head of the region, and the region of Western Greece for this very successful conference that they have organized in Patras, for their successful participation to Esmartcity Interreg program, and of course for all those ambitious initiatives that they have taken, among others the Interreg program. The head of the region talked about the characteristics of a smart city.
I'd like now to develop a little bit more in English and say that I'm very happy to communicate with you all in the context of this important smart cities and circular economy workshop, digital workshop, where I'm expected to share with you some considerations about the importance of a smart city in the context of circular and of digital economy. And of course, taking into consideration the next generation EU. Now, the characteristics of a smart city, and I would like us also to use the term a circular city, as a circular economy is a broader concept which encompasses all the smart city characteristics. The characteristics of a smart city following the pandemics are also to take into consideration the what I would call COVID resilience. A smart city needs to be COVID resilient and convey the message that the environment, the climate neutrality, the high quality of the environment, the lack of atmospheric pollution, which has been considered a vehicle to propagate the pandemic, approach vis-a-vis pandemics, solidarity, and circular, civil, social, circular, and digital economy considerations are very important in this mix of elements which need to be there to qualify a city as a smart one. In addition to the, I would say, typical characteristics of a smart city, which are, I repeat myself, climate neutrality, electromobility, energy efficiency in the buildings, lighting, street lighting using LEDs, renewable energy sources that are extremely important, and of course all the environmental infrastructures that are needed for high quality drinking water, for sewerage treatment, for exploitation of the sludge to produce energy out of it, and for, I would say, a holistic management of all the environmental components, including the biodiversity of a city. And of course, depending on the city, the characteristics may vary, as you have urban cities, you have rural cities, and you have cities on the islands, which need to shape their own circular economy plans. And of course, these plans need also to take on board the pandemic's dimension and be COVID resilient. Can you project my second overhead, please? Are you following? Olga, can you project, please, my second overhead? Thank you very much. Now, this is the overhead which shows that we need to take into consideration all the elements of a chain which will lead to a circular approach and of course a digital economy approach. And here comes the next generation EU. There is a unique opportunity for all the cities to use the EU funds, which are extremely important. And in the next programming period, in addition to the partnership agreements which are under preparation and where, for example, important funds will be dedicated to combating climate change, we will have the Just Transition Fund, which is extremely important for the cities and the municipalities that need to move to the post-lignite era and phase out from lignite. In Greece, we have 5 of them. Other cities within the European Union face similar problems. These cities will benefit from the Just Transition Fund, and important funds will be used to transform them into smart cities, as they are heavy burdened because of the lignite activity and the production of electricity from lignite, which is heavily polluting. And the good news is that this Just Transition Fund benefits also to the islands in order to make them clean. This is the Clean Energy Islands Initiative, which is extremely important. The aim being to avoid using conventional fuels, mazout and petrol, as the case may be, and turn them into electricity production from renewable sources of energy, possibly connecting them to the grid of the mainland or to the grids of other neighboring islands. These are very important considerations which also make an island city, because you have island cities, to make them clean, to make them smart, together with the other components that a smart city needs to have. I will turn now to the next generation EU. We will have here the recovery plan, which is extremely important. It hasn't been yet formally decided. We have the proposals from the European Commission, which have to be formally enshrined by the other institutions. But the important thing is that national strategies will have to be developed under the recovery fund. And these strategies need to take on board the needs of all the cities. In that respect, all municipalities and all cities in a bottom-up approach will need to bring to the national level and subsequently to the European level their needs, and therefore patterns for smart cities will have to be developed within the national strategies, depending on the characteristics of the city. I was referring before to urban cities to rural cities, and of course to cities on islands or cities on mountain areas, which are extremely important. And these specificities and their characteristics need to be reflected to make them smart. These strategies will have to be developed not only at national level with important emblematic projects that will have to be co-financed under the new generation, the next generation EU, but through also regional strategies and I would say local strategies. And in that respect, a smart city requires a circular economy strategy together with a digital strategy, which also needs to be developed at the national level as circular economy goes hand in hand with a digital economy and with artificial intelligence. These are extremely important priorities that need also to be reflected. Can you please project, Olga, the last overhead? Can you increase it? Is it possible to increase this? Do you hear me? Excuse me. Do you hear me? Irene?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Go on and we will put it on full screen.
Okay. Can you put it on full screen? Yes, please. Okay. For everybody to be visible. Okay. Okay. Now, this is what needs to be done at national level. As I was mentioning before, the national and the regional strategies that need to be developed. And to take you briefly through this presentation, which reflects a good practice that every member state could follow and every city could follow with the view to becoming smart. When it comes to the climate and energy transition, which is a goal of the EU to reach the 2050 goal for a climate neutral Europe, here the national energy and climate plans needed to reflect the ambitious target of the climate law of the EU. You have to promote renewable energy sources, and the targets will become even more higher as renewable energy sources are there, and we have various possibilities within the EU to exploit them, including through bio-waste that now constitute within the circular economy a new separate collection waste stream. Then the energy efficiency is extremely important, the smart grids, and of course I was referring to the islands connectivity through cables with the mainland, and of course development of renewable energy sources. Then we go to the blue economy. The governor has referred to the blue economy. It is extremely important for the coastal areas and the islands of the EU. We need to develop the blue energy, renewable energy sources through offshore wind farms, but also through exploration of hydrocarbons in the seas. Here we need also to promote the blue economy diplomacy and in general environmental diplomacy. In this context comes also the sustainable and safe tourism and how we can promote public health through the activation of the chapter of the Treaty on Public Health. Promote also smart ports areas. This is extremely important. Patras has a very important port which is also a trans-European network port and the gate of Greece to Europe and vice versa. And last but not least, how we can promote circular fisheries and aquaculture. And in all the above, it is very important also to keep the digital element in mind. Then moving to sustainable mobility, which is extremely important for a smart city. Smart mobility and electromobility is extremely important. In Greece, we are adopting now a very ambitious law for electromobility. Electric chargers will be developed in the whole country from one to the other end of the country. Sustainable mobility plans are extremely important. And this is also important for sustainable maritime transport, which is also to be developed through electric boats that can be promoted and which can use batteries. Then we have the circular economy as such. Circular economy is a key priority of the European Union. National circular economy plans need to be developed. I have referred to this already. This is also the case for regional and local plans at the level of the municipalities. We need to mainstream circular economy in all the policies. All the policies of the EU, but also the policies at national level need to become circular. And therefore, we should talk about circular agriculture, farming, fisheries, transport, energy, and tourism, taking also into consideration the pandemic's dimension, as I was referring before, to make them COVID resilient. Eco-innovation is extremely important in this context and integrated product policy, as we need to produce new types of products that will have a longer life, a much longer life that will be repairable and recyclable at the end of their life. Here is also the link between circular and digital economy and the databases to promote industrial symbiosis, which is the concept according to which what is waste for one activity can be a raw material or a secondary product for another activity. Circular social economy is extremely important, as the social dimension is a very important one and needs to be there to promote also the civil society and academia participation in all the circular and digital economy activities. In this context, we can talk also about efficient and green buildings, and of course, greening the public procurement is an extremely important element. Then last but not least, the digital transformation to reach a circular economy, and all that is in the context of the Green Deal and of climate neutrality. The next generation EU needs to be at the service of the Green Deal and of climate neutrality. Here in this last pillar, environmental licensing and digital reform in the legal sector is extremely important. We need to develop concepts and legal concepts for smart cities, smart digital cities, and smart rural areas. Digital innovation hubs, such the one that is being developed in the Western Greece region. I was referring to the program and to the initiative Rebrain Greece, and then open calls for innovation services and other types of investments. These are the considerations that I wanted to share with you. And I would be happy to reply to any questions that you might have, but unfortunately I have to attend another meeting, and I will be obliged to leave you in a while.
Ευχαριστούμε κύριε Κρεμλή. Είναι μεγάλη τιμή για εμάς που βρήκατε το χρόνο να μοιραστείτε μαζί μας όλα αυτά που συμβαίνουν στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση αναφορικά με την πράσινη ανάπτυξη και κοινωνία στην Ευρωπαϊκή. Ως consortium του Esmartcity πρέπει να πούμε ότι έχουμε λάβει υπόψη τα περισσότερα από όλα αυτά στη δική μας δουλειά, αλλά φυσικά υπάρχουν και πολλά άλλα ακόμη που εξετάζουμε, πολλά άλλα που θα πρέπει να λάβουμε υπόψη για τα πολιτικά έργα. Και πάλι είναι μεγάλη χαρά που σας έχουμε εδώ κοντά μας. Ελπίζω να μπορέσουμε να σας ξανασυναντήσουμε.
I would like also to thank you very much. And should you have any questions, you can also send them to me in writing, and I would be very happy to reply to all of them.
Our web organization, but if there are, then maybe we share it with you later in the mail. Once more, thanks again.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Παρακαλούμε, ευχαριστούμε.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now let's go with the next topic that is in the same subject, circular economy, the new era. Topic will be presented by Mr. Mardikis, General Director of Circular Economy and Climate Change Institute here in Greece. Kalimera, κύριε Mardiki.
Good morning, Mr. Mardikis. You have the floor.
Thank you very much for being here, for being invited in such an important conference. Congratulations for your project, first of all. Congratulations on the deliverables and the hard work that is being conducted. We are working closely with Esmartcity project since we are also part of the Green Growth Horizontal project, and we have to say that is one of the most active projects in our axis. I will go through my presentation and you can see it, yes? I will go through my presentation in regards to circular economy. Our honorary president, Mr. Kremli, has explained some things in relation with the next generation EU and what needs to be done in the European Union from now on. Circular economy is a key priority for the EU. It is actually where the value of products, materials and resources is maintained in the economy for as long as possible while the generation of waste is minimized. What we are doing is actually a big mistake. We are importing raw materials from all over the world, and we are just, when their life finishes, we are just burying them. In most of the cases, in environments that are actually not the proper environments to be handled. We are actually going against nature because, as we know, the Earth is a living organism, and within living organisms, nobody is acting this way. I mean, waste is totally minimized in nature, and all the elements are being reused. So humanity is actually going the wrong way because it has a linear model. And circular economy is speaking about a new economic model in which we need to preserve the scarce resources of our planet and protect its climate and environment. There are major breakthroughs so as to adopt and to create basic principles of circularity. One of them was the EU Circular Economy Action Plan. It's been fully implemented and it has 85 actions in EU level and is now to be implemented at the level of the member states. And of course, the EU Green Deal is an optimistic plan and based on circular economy so to achieve its goals. We see here in the plan that actually there is the possibility of reusing, recycling, repairing, and remanufacturing material. And this way, we will be able to make our economies more sustainable and our environment more resilient. Our institute was created because of that need, because of the need of public authorities to quickly adapt to the new economic model. So EPLO Circular Climate Institute is actually an international organization. EPLO is an international organization in which we are hosted. It is related with public law, human rights, environmental law, as well as international legal, and it has international legal personality and status. It is established in 1995 with 5 branch offices, 8 regional offices. The board of directors is deriving from members from members of the European Commission, the European Council, and we are actually collaborating with more than 75 universities from 35 countries. We have run more than 200 educational, research, training, and capacity building activities. We have given technical assistance in more than 70 countries. While we are the observer status, we have an observer status at the General Assembly of the United Nations. The mission and targets, we are aiming to promote circular and sustainable practices, mainstream circular economy in all policy areas, and we need to, at this moment, we need to explain, first of all, to the public authorities, and second, to the citizens, what needs to be done in order for us to adapt our economies and to adapt our lives in general in this circular model. The members are experts on circular economy and environmental studies. We are having representatives from all the 4 LX actors, and the main target is to adapt the governance in the new model, as I said before. Apart from that, our president has demonstrated where are we going in the EU level, where are we heading in the EU level. We have certain tools as the SDGs, the Green Deal, carbon neutrality, circular economy action plan, and of course, to serve all that, we need a robust digital economy. You have seen with Mr. Kremlis all the logical framework and all the opportunities that are lying ahead us when it comes to circular economy. In relation with your project, I will stay in the last slide, and I will say that in order for us to achieve circularity, we need certain interventions, and from my point of view, we need them to be conducted in the regional and local level, apart from the national level. I mean, the regions will give the boost. So we need to create, let's say, a strategy and, of course, people that will be working with the IT tools that will transform the economy to digital. So when it comes to regional level, what we are doing now for the Western Greece is in collaboration with a major initiative, Rebrain Western Greece, that is related with upskilling and training new staff or new staff so as to undertake circular economy activities. We need to create a circular economy regional action plan that will lie exactly on the needs of the region and will describe exactly what is needed for that area and that territory according to its dynamics. And what needs to be done is actually to describe some best practices, then to make a diagnosis of labor market potential on circular economy, of course to link that diagnosis of labor market potential with the existing SMEs, with the existing small and medium enterprises, as well with corporations of its region. Then we need to prioritize some circular economy projects, and we can also step in and train, mentor some businesses in order for them to adapt the economic model. Last but not least, we must see the individuality of its region, and we must design the funding and financial tools according to its dynamic. An example for that, I cannot create strategies that will be the same for Corsica, Malta, for Austria, the mountains of Austria, or the islands of Cyclades. I mean, these regions, they need tools, and they need tailor-made strategies in order for them to adapt quickly into the demands of the EU circular economy and the EU Green Deal. So when it comes to Esmartcity, there is a recent paper from the European Commission. It's called the Categorization System for the Circular Economy. And to tell you the truth, it actually is the essence of what you're doing in your project and what needs to be done in the future. And when we're speaking about the 9 circular economy strategies: refuse, rethink, reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, repurpose, and recycle, what we need to do is to create IT tools, applications, as well as services that will have certain characteristics. They will be the basis of turning the economy quickly, rapidly into circularity. So we must design circular support tools in order to contribute to the circular economy, and in order to do so, they must be enabling the circular economy strategies, and they must result also in significant overall net resource savings. Some examples that are actually promoted by this paper are some ICT tools that could predict maintenance and repair to extend the life of products, digital tools and applications that could facilitate reverse logistics. We could track, we could see how we could take back products for reuse, repair, or recycling. We could use tools to improve resource efficiency or avoidance of waste production. For example, in restaurants, hotels, and shops, we could trace we could trace how we would be able to use the food waste. There is an amazing example in Barcelona that they have the food banks, and of course they are fully sustainable because they are using only e-bikes and bikes. And the leftovers from its restaurant is actually going to certain NGOs that are after a while distributing them to the ones that are the most vulnerable. Then again, we could create some virtual marketplaces for secondary raw materials in which we are far behind. We could create some digital material passports and related data repositories that could facilitate the tracing of resources within the region. Apart from that, we could use methodological frameworks and tools for measuring and monitoring the progress of the transition that we are actually implementing in the region. We could create some digital tools and applications for consumer awareness, raising education, for example, for the citizens. And apart from that, and least, we could have tailor-made advisory services for companies and public authorities for strategizing, preparing, and implementing circular economy transitions. So, what I will stop sharing, and what we are discussing here is that the mission and the dream could be a certain strategy creation strategy, a unit within the region that could be able to have certain scientific staff that could be able to start creating all these digital materials. And we speak about the region because the region has the knowledge and the region has the direct linkage with the SMEs and the companies that are actually operating in the area. Thank you very much.
And the first or one of the few regions in Greece that take part in the Rebrain consortium and to take advantage of all this cycle economy and all your knowledge and awareness on this. We're very glad to hear you. Maybe there are some questions in the end of the session, as said with the program. Now we would like to go on with our next presentation. We're very glad to welcome Mr. Simone Bastiagnoni. He is a provost for sustainability in the University of Siena in Italy, and also a president of the Alliance for the Carbon Neutrality of Siena. And we are very glad to hear what's going on in our neighbor country, Italy, on this and change experience. Thank you, Mr. Bastiagnoni, and we're very glad to hear you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. It's a big pleasure to be here. I'm the project coordinator of another Interreg Med, a cousin project, let's say. And so we share experiences together, and also I would say my personal vision on sustainability and circularity, and especially blue energies that can be an important driver for both sustainability and circularity of the economy. I start sharing my screen. I start from the very beginning because I think in the sustainability narrative there has been a bit of misunderstanding, let's say, and some of the misunderstanding is coming from this typical representation of sustainability that shows the three spheres that are basically independent with some overlappings, and shows also that there are three components that are basically the same. Let's say the same importance, the same dynamics. But this is not true in a sense. And the fact that there are these only partial overlappings means, in a sense, that there can be a sort of trade-off unless we are exactly in the middle. Exactly in the middle of the three spheres, then we can say, okay, we have the economy, we have the environment. Who are we, let's say, saving first? And usually it's the economy because it has a faster dynamic, let's say. And so we hope that a safe economy preserves the environment. But up to now, it didn't work like that. We prefer a different representation of sustainability, in which, physically speaking, the environment is at the basis of our society. Our society is at the center of the problem because sustainability is not for nature. Nature would live perfectly well without humans. Sustainability is a problem for humans. Is a name for humans because it preserves humanity, not just nature. And economy is let's say, the tip of the iceberg, or the useful output of the society that in turn should then go back to the society and into the environment in a positive way. And in a sense, we can also try to shift this and turn this representation and put it, instead of down, up, left to right, yes. And in this sense, we see that we want to show the causal links between the environment, the society, and the economy. And this has been shown very, very well from the COVID pandemic. We have the input to our state, the state of the society. It's not a flow. It's something that is organization of the society, let's say. This organization of the society is fueled by the environment. It's the environment that gives the food to the society. And the society produces an economy, and the economy goes back to the society and to the environment with the feedbacks. And these feedbacks can be very important and can be very dangerous. Then it comes to the circularity of the economy. But just think, if this is true, and I mean, shown by the pandemics, because an environmental crisis, the insurgence of the pandemic, mostly due to the fact that the humans have invaded spaces that were not supposed to invade. An ecological society, an environmental crisis, give rise to a social crisis that give rise to an economic crisis. Is giving, and instead, I mean, what we have done up to now, most of the times, we have been just focusing on the economy and trying to push the economy. And typically, pushing the economy means to pull resources from the environment and to send waste back. So, if we want to organize our society in a proper way, we have to harmonize the input, the state, and the output, looking at them as a whole, not just trying to maximize the output of these, because maximizing the output of these could create harm to the input, and without the input, then this dynamic doesn't work any longer. And what about the circularity, as I said? I mean, this is very important. The feedbacks that come from the economy very often are very dangerous for the environment, as Mr. Mardikis said before. But, I mean, I just go back to the very basic of thermodynamics, the science that I teach to the students. Biosphere is a closed thermodynamic system, meaning that it can exchange energy but not matter. So while matter can only cycle, and in a sense, humans have to adapt to this evidence. I mean, this was not very important when we were maybe 1 billion. But now that we are getting closer and closer to 8 billions, everything that we waste, in a sense, is something that potentially pollutes our population, because matter can only cycle. And energy, instead, once used, can be released to the outer space. But the problem is that non-renewables can have problems on matter issues, in the sense that pollute. So the matter that is used for driving the energy system is then, released to the environment and stays there, and it's dangerous for us. Or it produces greenhouse gases. That is exactly what is preventing the release of the energy, the excess energy, to the outer space. So this is exactly, a source of a problem. The use of fossil fuels is part of the problem in this sense. And in order to have circular economy, in order to make it matter cycle very well, we will need excess energy, more than now. And we have to avoid the use of fossil fuels. Therefore, the question is, can we afford to neglect the blue part of the planet to provide us energy? The answer for me is no, because it's 70% of the globe is covered by oceans and seas. So it wouldn't be wise to say no to the use of blue energies. And the possible solutions that are coming out for blue energies are many. For location, they can be onshore, along the coast, near the coast, or far from the coast. And the sources can be wind, waves, currents, tides, salinity, or thermal gradient. And all of these can constitute, let's say, a menu that all the coastal areas can use to see which one of these is the most convenient in the area. And these possible solutions, obviously, I have depicted here with some images. They're very, very creative solutions. So, for example, there are these three in the top part are from waves onshore, along the coast. So they can be implemented mainly in ports, the entrance of ports on the port itself. And while below there are, seawater-based heat pumps and salinity-based electricity generator that is usually combined with desalination plants. That is very important, for example, for islands in which sometimes fresh water is not available for drinking. And this is the result of one of the Interreg Med Blue Deal project. And by the way, Blue Deal is just for you to know, it is not coming after the Green Deal, it's coming before the Green Deal, because we gave the name to the project, we gave it at the end of 2018. So it's we are very glad that this language then came out exactly the same with a different color, at least partially different. Then there are waves near shore and offshore, as you see in the top part. There are oscillating converters, either based on the floor, the sea floor, or linked to the sea floor. Then we can cultivate biomass, for example, that sometimes can help especially in more polluted or eutrophic areas to also get rid of some of the nutrients that are in excess. And obviously, the most developed one, the most reliable one up to now, that are marine currents based and wind farms. The last two are, the most common ones already used, but I have to say that the first one, marine currents in the Mediterranean area, can be exploited just in few places in the straits, basically, because otherwise there is not enough current. As you have seen, also tides are not present here because also tides are not in the Mediterranean area, are not so important as they are in Northern Europe. And so the Blue Deal means the Blue Energy Deployment Alliance, and is made of 13 partners in 9 regions in the Med area, and 2 are from Greece, Dynamic Vision and CRES. And what we want to do is to try to include blue energies in maritime planning and governance, because up to now there is some lack in the knowledge, in regulations, and strategies along the area do not usually consider blue energies as an important part, and instead they are coming out as an important driver of mitigation of greenhouse gases, being able to substitute, at least in part, the fossil fuels. But sometimes the regulations, as I said, are not ready to accommodate blue energy plants in the areas. So we will have to develop procedures to support the decisions, and with trying to comply with the regulatory, environmental, and social constraints of the area. And my conclusion are, they might sound a bit like syllogismos in a sense. If they do, I'm glad they come out like this. But there is no pleasant alternative to sustainable development with, going to 8 billion people on the earth. I don't think there is a pleasant alternative. Sustainability is not a matter of trade-offs, but of a harmonization of the three spheres, and the fourth is very, very important, the one of the regulation. And circularity is a necessary feature of economy. It's not any longer, let's say, something sophisticated. It's something that will decide who will survive. In Darwin saying, in the competition in the future, if we have a circular economy, we will survive. If we continue easily, and energy to facilitate the circularity cannot be fossil, and instead blue energy can and should become a key factor of the Green Deal. In our case, but in the energy transition in general. And I leave you with thanks for your attention with the characters of a comics book that we have produced with a previous Interreg Med project, in which there are the heroes, the 6 heroes here that represent the various blue energies that make it at the end to defy the monster NIMBY that was trying to keep things as they were before. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bastianioni. It was really very nice to, at least for me, and I think for most of us here, to see the ordered presentation of sustainability. We're used to see the 3 cycles, and I think it's very interesting the way you present this. And moreover, about the blue energy and all these blues, it's very nice to be aware of this, because we're usually mostly working on green growth, so it is very interesting that we had the contribution of the blue energy, so that all of it come to have better results. Thank you.
Don't forget the blue.
Thank you very much for being here with us today and watching our workshops, and I hope in the future we meet without COVID restrictions. So
yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, thank you. So following presentation comes from Athanasios Kalogeras. Actually, he's partner in our Esmartcity consortium, and will present us the significant meaning of open data in all this smart city concept. It's very important broad subject. So, Athanasios.
Thank you, Maria. To connect with the previous presentation, I would like to say that whatever color, green or blue, data is an asset that can be used, and open data can be moreover a driver for the growth and development of our regions and territories, and also of enterprises in our territories. Why do we need open data? I connect to John Mardicki's presentation about tailored-made interventions in a territorial or regional scale. So if you want to benchmark your place with other places in Europe, you need data. And if you want to discover new trends, you also need data. And if you want to develop strategies, you need to see what instruments exist in your area. For instance, operational programs or integrated territorial interventions, etc. And all these screenshots come from a DG Regio and JRC-based platform, which is called Urban Data Platform Plus, and it's an effort to present the different data at a European scale for the different regions that can be used for the strategic planning and policy planning in the different areas. And when we come to the city level, there is a need to integrate different services that have to be offered and that refer to mobility, that refer to democratization, meaning to collect information from the citizens about their lives and the way they see the city, to deal with waste management, with energy efficiency, environment. And here an example comes from Dublin and an open data city platform that is set there that comprises a variety of services. How to navigate into the city, how to collect information from the citizens on different issues, how to enhance the mobility and transport and offer last mile delivery services, how to reduce the reliance on fossil fuel in transport. An application called Smart Benches that offers different services to the citizens that approach, including Wi-Fi access, etc. Smart Bins that send emails when they are full, energy efficient buildings, and many more. So a platform working as an umbrella for all the different applications that can be offered at city level. And when we come to circularity, there is a quest for the economy to become more circular, moving away from the linear system, so that the outcome, the waste, let's say, of an industry, of a process, can be used as a material in another process, including also the efficiency in the use of resources and in the use of energy, and the promotion of industrial symbiosis that Mr. Kremlis talked about. And open data can provide solution to this. So our project comes into this quest through the green paper that was presented yesterday by Mrs. Macri and Mrs. Marousi, and is about a set of recommendations that the project has defined so that to address innovation policy change. The green paper is available in English currently on our website, and it will be available in the different languages, including Greek. So it could be a useful tool to be used at regional level. I would like to focus on two policy recommendations that deal with digitalization and open innovation. So policy recommendation number 1 proposes the existence of an open innovation platform like the one we saw for Dublin before, And the idea behind this is to bring all stakeholders around the same table, opening a dialogue for open infrastructure and open data, and facilitating decision making. And the target here is that we have to break the silos between application domains. This means that instead of having each application on its own, for instance, mobility on its own, or environment on its own, or whatever, we can use the same infrastructure, meaning the same sensors, the same systems, in order to address the different application as a whole. And this can bring significant savings. It is estimated that in EU public administration in 2020, there is a saving of 1.7 billion euros out of such practices, while in the area of, in the period of 2016 to 2020, there were 25,000 new jobs in Europe related to open data. And the prerequisite in this is digitalization, so policy recommendation number 4 that views digitalization as a catalyst for smart cities. Of course, some challenges on privacy, safety, and citizen data have to be addressed. And the target is to offer advanced services to citizens, bridging the digital divide, offering economies of scale, and producing benefits for the city out of the installation of Internet of Things. When we talk about open data, we actually mean data that are made available by organizations for anyone to access, use, and share. And if a city or a region or a territory wants to enroll in such an initiative, it has to define two things: an open data policy and an open data strategy. The policy defines the commitment of the organization to publish, share, and consume data, and helps to identify and prioritize what data should be released, and also help the external stakeholders understand how they can utilize this data that is released. While the strategy is about the how, what, and when will be achieved regarding the policy, and the specific steps and parties and targets involved into this. A critical part is to engage the different partners, both inside the city and inside the region, the different departments that produce data, and as well as the external actors that need to utilize the data. And here there is a 5-star engagement model by Tim Davis, proposed by Tim Davis. Each star is a step higher than the other. So the idea is first to be demand-driven. This means that you have to take into account the community needs in opening the data and listen to people's requests. Then it has to put data into context, which means to clear the information, to have it in updated frequency, to have it in quality. Then there is a need to support conversation around data, to build capacity, skills, and networks. This is quite important because there are missing skills in the public sector and in the private sector with reference to data utilization. And finally, to collaborate on data as a common resource, providing this collaboration is essential to provide finally support tools and services. An essential part behind opening data is licensing. License is actually an explicit permission to access, use, and share data, and without a license, data is not truly open, because if somebody uses it, he cannot actually use it afterwards. And there are different types of licenses. In a license, one can have issues like attribution, meaning that people have to credit the publisher, or share alike, meaning that if you mix data with other data, then the results should be also presented as open data. With reference to quality, quality is a quite important issue, because if data are not of a sufficient quality, then they make no sense. And this means content quality, which comprises completeness and accuracy, timeliness, meaning that the data should be up to date, otherwise, again, they are not useful, consistency, meaning that the way data is presented does not make it difficult to extract value out of them. And the second important issue is discoverability. You have to open data, but they must be found. And in order to be found, you annotate them with metadata, which means human and machine-readable annotations of data. And here there is a 5-star open data model by Tim Berners-Lee, and the different stages that you have to pass through is first to have an open license for data, then to make it available as structured data, for instance, have it in the form of an Excel file rather than a text, this is structured data, then use non-proprietary formats, use URIs to denote things, and then link your data to other data so that they become more useful and more easier to utilize. When we come to open data prioritization, you see here the categories of data most applicable to different sectors, and the first category is geospatial data, environment. I'm not sure that you can read all, but the presentation will be available. Then economy, transport, energy, demographics, agriculture, etc. So these are the main categories according to their applicability. And the different sectors that can benefit from open data, first and foremost is the public sector, the first, then ICT, then financial and insurance activities, then real estate, human health, etc. And with reference to the business value potential of data, again, you may see data, geographic information is the highest, then meteorological and environmental, economic and business, social, traffic and transport, to name the first in a row. Governance is an important aspect with reference to data, and the 8 principles related to governance is that data have to be complete, they have to be primary, meaning not aggregated, but at the granularity that they are produced, timely, accessible, machine processable, with non-discriminatory access, meaning that everybody can have access to it, with non-proprietary data formats and license-free or open license. And with reference to governance, one has to take into account some issues. Here is a number of issues proposed by the City of New York with reference to the IoT installation in the city. So the first concern is about privacy and transparency, meaning that one has to be open and transparent about who, what, where, when, and why of the data collected. Then the second is data management, meaning that there should be a maximum public benefit out of captured data. Then the infrastructure that has to be dealt in a responsible, efficient, and secure manner throughout its lifetime, from the installation of the infrastructure until its maintenance, etc., throughout its life cycle. Then security, operation and sustainability, and these are the main concerns that have to be taken into account. And here is a scheme that shows the open data value chain. So you have the public sector and the private sector, and you have the different stages of data creation, data validation, aggregation, analysis, provision of services, and provision of aggregated services. So the public sector usually gets in the data creation because most of the data are produced by a city, a region, an infrastructure owned by a territory. And then this data has to be validated, this data has to be aggregated, has to be analyzed, and on the lower steps, it's the businesses that get into this. So the businesses have, out of this data analysis, provide services and new products and provide aggregated services that could deal with specific problems that add value to the territories, for instance, waste management or environmental services or cyclic economy services or whatever is needed in the territories involved. And here is a maturity map in Europe with reference to the open data, and it's very interesting to see that Greece is in the group of trendsetters. So we are quite good into this, and the rest of the countries that comprise this set is Spain, UK, Italy, Denmark, Germany, Austria, Finland, France, and Bulgaria. And the rest of the countries of EU are either classified in the follower or in the beginning status. With reference to the data market size, the direct market size of open data has increased from 55 billion euros to 75 billion euros in 2020. And this is only almost 1/3 of the entire market size that is influenced. And you can see that with reference to the different sectors, the public administration is by far the highest column here. And you can also see the contribution of the market in the different states. 5 billion. Greece is between half and in the second category anyway. And with reference to employment, there are, as I said in the beginning, there are 25,000 jobs, new jobs created between 2016 and 2020. And you can also see the contribution of new jobs per country in the EU. And a result of this is that 1.7 billion euros is saved. And now to conclude my presentation, there are two different attitudes concerning open data. And one attitude says that this data represents public data, and that the cities or the regions have paid money to do this aggregation. So why open it up and why share it? And the second option is that by sharing it, you provide the opportunity to actually cut down city and regional costs, because you allow the private sector, the private companies to utilize this data and produce out of this new services that can be useful to the citizen and can produce new services that were not available before. Of course, it's not very easy to predict where the market will go, but as there is a plethora of devices installed also due to the Internet of Things in cities, and there is a huge amount of data created, so you need big data analytics, and you need new AI algorithms on top of this that can elaborate on big data and provide useful results. Then you actually go towards a direction that this data can be used to break silos between the different application domains and offer new, novel, and innovative services, which has a direct influence on the entrepreneurial ecosystem as well, because these new services will be produced by new companies, new spin-offs or startups that will be created at a city level, and due to the minimum investment needed for ICT technologies, this can be a really a driver for countries that allow it to happen. And we witness now that there is a change in the business model from proprietary to open data, moving away from the city looking for vendors and the vendor looking for cities, because when you, a certain company installs something in a city, and there is no standardization and no openness. When it was to offer the same service in another city, probably it needs to get into a number of costs, and the same for the city that is not bound to a specific vendor. So thank you for your attention, and I'm available for any questions that might exist.
Thank you, Mr. Kalogeras. We see that open data is necessary for a smart city. All of us are very happy to have this geospatial open data useful in our everyday life. So if we imagine that open data in another aspect, as you mentioned, the environmental, etc., will be available in this way, all of us will be more happy to be aware of what is going on. But it's clear that local authorities, government, regional authorities have to work and cooperate and decide to spend money in order to save money later. I hope that we will gain and manage this. So then, I would like to welcome Professor Nikolaos Voros from University of Peloponnese, to have the next presentation of on a digital innovation network. Κύριε Βόρε, καλημέρα.
Good morning, Mr. Voros.
Σας ακούμε.
We're listening to you. Yes, hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you very much for this invitation to participate in this virtual event, in this workshop. It is very interesting, the fact that until now we have listened to a lot of interesting topics and strategies, not only on a national level, but also on a local level, and the regional level. And this is of great importance for the concepts that I will talk. I will talk about the Smart for All project, which is an extensive network of digital innovation hubs for boosting technology and business development in South and Eastern and Central Europe. This is an emblematic project of the European Commission, and its budget is very ambitious. Its overall budget is more than 8 million euros. It is coordinated by the University of Peloponnese, and it is under the auspices of Smart Anything Everywhere. And we focus on having smart technologies of low energies with emphasis on the Internet of Things and in the cyber-physical systems. This is coordinated by the University of Peloponnese. We are the only qualified hub in the southeastern Europe, and one of the 9 hubs now existing on a national level. I will talk about the digital innovation hubs more later, which is a very important concept for the European Commission and for the years to come. So this consortium, Smart for All, consists of 25 partners originated from Southeastern and Central Europe. We have a mix of universities, research institutes, investors, networking organizations, SMEs, innovation hubs, and NGOs. As you can see, we have diversity in partners' expertise, but also a geographic diversity. In a nutshell, Smart for All wants to bring together partners from different areas with different policies and strategies, and to combine technologies from different application domains. However, we want to do that by using the so-called application experiments. Experiments of applications that use low energy technologies in IoT, and in order to achieve that, this interconnectivity between the partners, We apologize, we have some kind of technical problems. Of course, we apologize, there is a technical issue with the sound in the booth. So the technological areas relate to the customized low energy computing and the Internet of Things. And the application areas are the digitized environment, the digitized agriculture, digitized transport, and of course, digitized anything. Anything that is not included in the three previous categories. From day one, or rather since the beginning of this day, we have listened to issues about strategies, about growth. So the vision of Smart for All is compatible with everything we have heard, but also with everything that the European Commission stands for. We have a bottom-up approach. And we want to create communities, and this is how important is the role of the region and of other local government organizations. We should build a local ecosystem and then to develop strategies for the growth. So we want to bring together the various ecosystems of the region, and this is why central actions are needed by the relevant ministries. And of course, this does not relate only to Greece, but to all the countries that are represented in the consortium and all those national ecosystems. The goal is to bring them together to a European ecosystem in a more systematic way that will be compatible with the needs and the agenda of the European Commission. So basic pillars, apart from the technologies and the areas that we have mentioned, are digital skills. This is something that we want to support it actively by this project. It is important for us not only to develop new technologies, but technologies that can relate to sensitive social groups. If you see, we have two NGOs that work with those sensitive social groups, and of course, all of this through a very important tool, the so-called marketplace as a service. And this is what will, in our view, give us the opportunity to go forward to the next stage of digitization. So the objectives of the Smart for All project are to bring innovative, customized, low-end computing and the IoT technologies to underrepresented business sectors in Europe. For example, Southeastern Europe and the Balkans area. It has some technological gems that wait there to be founded and to be brought forward through investments, through partnerships, through consortia that will allow them, will give them the opportunity to find support and funding elsewhere and to be able to make a step forward. Apart from funding, we want to develop and offer novel tools that aim to boost the use of all those ecosystems. It is very important to understand that we just don't want to give funding and create PAEs. We want those things to be sustainable, and within the next few years we would like to have those projects as very successful products that will be out in the market. This is an ambitious plan, but this is my view how it should be done. Now, when it comes to Those sensitive social groups, I think I have already talked. They are among our priorities. We apologize, there are some technical issues with the sound. And of course, we want to support digital skills that we want to develop. We want to help people, and we want to help the European Commission implement its agenda. Of course, digital innovation hubs are very important. It becomes more and more popular in Europe. It is supported by the European Commission, and they are a very important organization. It is a one-stop shop that can give all the information to an enterprise on how digital technologies could help them, could support them in order to come into this market and to use them in order to improve their final product. So a digital innovation hub could offer skills and training, can give access to an innovation ecosystems and networking such as the academia, could find investments, and of course, as Mr. Kalogera said earlier, he talked about open data. It is something very important for the future. I will talk about open infrastructure. It is very important for businesses and enterprises to have access to infrastructure that they could not buy themselves. And we will see later on how this is possible. So we offer three types of services: ecosystem services, technological services, and how that can be used in the best possible way. And of course, we want to give business services, how we can help those businesses to market their final product. This is the philosophy of the digital innovation hubs, more or less, according to the European Commission. So how Smart for All tries to cover the basic pillars of digital innovation hubs. The laboratory that I run leads this effort and this interconnectivity, and a large part of those services are offered and come from the laboratory itself, and we want to keep offering these services after the end of the program in order to help the ecosystem of the Western Greece, and of course, why not Greece as a whole and Europe as a whole. So, first of all, we offer access to a range of network of partners, starting with the 24 or 5 partners of the consortium, but it gets wider and wider. Last week we organized webinars, and there is a great interest for this training. There are organizations that come into our ecosystem, and they want to collaborate with members of our ecosystem or with other institutions that relate to Smart for All. We provide ethics coaching because we want to help people follow the rules, since we have experts on the ethics in the Smart for All project. So each experiment, each consortium that will receive funding, they will be supported in this area. They will receive ethics coaching. For example, how are they going to use the data that they produce? This is a rather innovative thing to do, because all around the world data are not always used very ethically. We also provide networking and connection with other ecosystems. We are part of the European Digital Innovation Hubs network, and we plan the services and the technologies of the next day on a European level. Now, when it comes to business services, we offer coaching for business development, and how can we develop successful products. We offer partner search and business matchmaking services that allow enterprises to find the right partner, and of course we offer online training courses. Now, when it comes to technological services, there is a team that offers technological coaching, technological experts that guide and help enterprises to understand how technology can improve their business. And of course, we give them access to state-of-the-art open infrastructures and services, and of course, technological matchmaking and technological training courses that will allow enterprises to get a grip of technology. It is our pleasure that we will be able, through Smart for All, to build a very important infrastructure. I'm talking about a high-performance computing center that will be based in the University of Peloponnes, and it offers a bouquet of services: software as a service, hardware as a service, scalable architecture to make high workloads and provide 24/7 availability, high-speed network interconnection via the GRNE backbone, and of course, we would like to give this infrastructure to the enterprises of the region of Western Greece. But we believe that this infrastructure is of such importance, and our vision is to be able to give access to the whole southeastern Europe. Technology and interconnectivity are very complex. Those are really technical slides, but I just want to give you an idea of this technological treasure. This is a really state-of-the-art technology that, apart from the typical infrastructure for storage, for computing power, it offers high-performance GPUs that they will be available through software as a service technology, and it is the state-of-the-art, as I've told you right now. We're talking about a gem, a rare gem in Greece, in Western Greece, and it is our great pleasure that we will be able to give access to the enterprises to use that kind of infrastructure. Not our basic tool. We're talking about marketplace as a service, which is that tool that will allow us to materialize this digital innovation hub. So it offers a bouquet of services. Imagine a company that starts right now, a startup that starts right now and don't have a web page, let's say. So we can offer them, we can give them some hosting, we can also give them the opportunity to use tools, training tools, management tools, webinars. We can offer them business coaching, technical coaching. Everything that I have mentioned earlier can be accessible through this marketplace as a service with a holistic, integrated way. What is really interesting is that the services offered are really fast forward, are really innovative compared to other services. We use microservices And we're talking about a kind of technology, a kind of tools and frameworks that are available right there and can be used as containers. A collaborator from Poznan, from Poland, came in order to develop an algorithm that could recognize image that can understand if someone is wearing their mask or not. That could be used in a smart camera, a smart sensor at the entrance of a public building, let's say. This artifact is available in our infrastructure. It has the specific tags, it is controlled. So if someone would like to find an algorithm for COVID, for example, could, among others, use this algorithm, this artifact. The algorithms themselves, with various variations, can be used really well by a drone that flies above the olive trees and can find the insect that harms those olive trees. So we want to find a very smart way in order to combine and transfer know-how and technology that are already existing in another technological areas such as smart cities. And we can achieve that by giving the right information to the system, and the system can make this technological matchmaking. You describe your needs, and the system may propose to you an algorithm, a training course, an enterprise within the ecosystem or a university within the ecosystem that work towards the same direction with you, or even funding or connections with other European digital information hubs. I would like to see if we can interconnect that with the infrastructure of the region in order to be able to give interesting parties also funding information. Therefore, we have pre-installed systems, mainly open source but also proprietary tools and software. But the important is that you receive this tool as a container, you can run it at your PC, and you don't have to spend money when it comes to configurations and settings. The technical experts among you understand how complex this issue is. Of course, you can get information from the person that has created. So we're talking about a technological matchmaking, so to say. Mr. Voras, I don't know if you can listen to me. I would like to ask you to consider the timeline and to summarize, if you wish. So this technological matchmaking is done in order to take full advantage of the partnerships and the connections of this ecosystem. And the next generation that is built right now will try to make use of all this information in order to make this matchmaking even better. So apart from all the services, we have help desks that people can come and ask information about this project. We will give 2.2 million for the next 4 years for consortia in order to create application experiments in technological areas that we have mentioned. 3 categories of PAEs. The first is about the knowledge of transfer experiments. The second and the third relate to larger consortia, FTTs and CTTs. And we will give funding to 65 experiments plus 21 internal experiments that will be developed by the consortium. We have already launched the open calls. The first 2 calls have been launched. The first is the deadline is until the 15th of July. And the second deadline is until the 1st of September. We have seen a great interest until now. And of course, I would like to ask you all, to invite you all to become members of our network, either by subscribing, to our newsletter, or by using some of our services, or why not by starting to use our marketplace. You can find us in social media. We're really social. You can find all sorts of information when it comes to training, when it comes to funding, and of course, we are available for any other questions or informations. Members of our consortium can give you answers to all your questions. Thank you very much, and I apologize for taking more of your time. I don't know if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Smart for All, even if it has started only recently, last January, it has done a lot of hard work until now. I'd like to wish you the best of luck to your project, and of course we will be following you, and I hope that we will have the opportunity to work more closely together and to meet in person. I don't know if there is any question, because we are a bit back with the time. We will have a short coffee break. So we will have a 10 minutes coffee break, and we will come back in 10 minutes.
It's 7 a.m. Eva leaves for work. The smart public lighting detects her presence. It automatically lights up so that Eva can get to her electric car. The street light is powered by a solar panel. Eva's smart carpooling app alerts her that she can pick up other passengers for their journey. GPS relay terminals and intelligent traffic monitoring devices analyze and smooth traffic flow in real time. Her smartphone shows her the best itinerary and finds her a parking space with a charging station near her office. Alex arrives by bike. He appreciates his comfortable office environment. The connected building is equipped with humidity, temperature and brightness sensors that automatically adjust the equipment in the office for the user's well-being. The continuous monitoring of consumption, adapted to the exact needs, avoids waste of energy so that the building only consumes the energy required. Susan is in charge of the operational monitoring of the smart building. Thanks to the artificial intelligence which analyzes the energy networks, Susan is alerted in real time of any anomalies. She can ensure preventive maintenance and address any problems that could harm users. In addition, since all equipment is connected and interconnected by means of the smart grid, the energy optimization system also provides flexibility services to the power grids or neighboring buildings. So when Eva's car is sufficiently charged, it supplies energy to the building. Smart technology allows Eva, Alex and Susan to live in a more energy-efficient environment. They are engaged citizens. They are smart citizens. For its users, the local authority has chosen to integrate green and smart public lighting and buildings into its funding scheme and local action plan. EU criteria for green public procurement, including the carbon footprint of equipment, public procurement of innovative solutions to boost the attractiveness of the region and business competitiveness. The European Esmartcity project, funded by the Interreg Med program, has allowed testing of new technologies to increase the energy efficiency of public buildings and lighting on 9 partner pilot sites in the Mediterranean. Smart lighting has generated 60% energy savings. Renovating lighting also provides greater security, reduces light pollution, and enhances architectural heritage at a lower cost. Optimized smart public buildings have demonstrated better energy management and improved daily comfort all for a return on investment of less than 4 years.
Hello everyone. We continue with the second part of today's meeting about Esmartcity project. This session will focus on smart entrepreneurship. It is with great pleasure that the session is being attended by the Deputy Head of Region for Innovation Technology, Mr. Zaimis. Welcome. Kindly, you have some time for a briefly address to the audience. Hello everyone. I will be very brief. I know that the head of region and Mr. Dimitriani is the deputy head of region for energy and climate have already spoken to you. So I would just like to say a few things about what we have moved forward and new technologies. Welcome to this event. I would like to thank all the bodies that have put together this strategy for the region of Western Greece. A few days ago, we announced that. You can visit the rebrainwesterngreece.gr. You can visit this website to find out more. As is the case in Western Greece, many other regions and OECD countries, there's a long-standing experience about the deindustrialization and the negative impact on financial growth. Industrial change has always been bringing about changes and alterations in the labor market, and we know that this has been the main lever for the development of their quality of life. However, industrial transition brings about major changes and challenges. The change of industrial models might bring about temporary and rather prolonged effects of unemployment that entails a substantial impact on the local level as well. On top of that, we are looking for specific skills, something that affects the wages and salaries, bringing about changes in the lives of specific categories of employees. And all regional authorities, apparently the central government as well, wishes to ensure steady working conditions, steady salaries that are satisfactory and high. The regions that undergo industrial transition, Western Greece region is part of that, have a unique opportunity to capitalize on mega trends, digitalization, circular economy, etc. This will help boost financial development, productivity. It will improve their resilience towards the various technological development. Those areas have a strong and a long-standing tradition in manufacturing. I believe that Patras might be having the most ancient manufacturing premises in Greece. And we have businesses that have been active have been the first to operate in Greece ever since the Greek state started its operation. And this has been a lever for development and welfare. And those regions might face specific challenges because the industrialization has been connected to the lack of specific skills for future-oriented professions with low productivity levels. Across all OECD countries, the percentage of employees of higher education is different and varies, ranking this region among the lowest in Europe. When there is lack of specialized manpower, this means that it is difficult to attract investments at regional and national level, and those investments are highly necessary in order to provide services of added value. And in the fourth industrial revolution, and its success will rely on the capacity of the region to promote strategies of competitiveness and high goals. In other words, it means the region's capacity to promote development on the basis of innovation and ensure that benefits will be reaped by all citizens. While the use of those benefits that will mitigate social costs at all levels requires political interventions that are based on the existing heritage and tradition of each area. Coordinated action and synergies between the state and the private sector are required. High-edge technology, climate change, all those things have come to redefine the role of manpower for the development of those skills. The main goal of our initiative is to further boost, to provide reskilling and upskilling of the existing manpower and scientific manpower in the region in order for us to move towards the new industrial era in the context of smart resources and smart regions. An ecosystem that is built by public and private entities that will operate jointly in order to provide one-stop services, provide networking opportunities that will allow corporations and businesses to embrace new technologies, have access to high-quality training and education, have access to consultant services for financing of their business plan. They need to have access to information about market at a local and regional level to further improve their business through digital and other innovations. And I would like once more to thank and congratulate all the founding members and say that we have already achieved our first goal in the development of innovation with the financing of actions from the region of Western Greece. And to be more precise, a few days ago we announced a call for circular economy in a different way. And what has changed is that we no longer talk about circular economy, but about social innovation. The region of Western Greece will be the first region in Greece to announce such an action for circular economy. This will include a €4 million investment as well as existing cooperatives and cooperatives that are under foundation. Well, we know that this has been the outcome of long negotiations with social partners and the ministry and is 100% funded. This is an effort that started thanks to the collaboration between the ministry and the region, and last January a memorandum of understanding was signed between the head of region and the Minister of Resources, and this provides for specific steps. The establishment and announcement of the Digital Innovation Hub has been one of those initiatives. Mr. Kremlis, thank you for your important help. And I would also like to say that this is a comprehensive tool for regional development. laying emphasis on circular economy, female entrepreneurship, and concrete proposals for upgrade and upskilling of our manpower. Various other proposals and innovative actions have been announced. For example, the regional diagnosis mechanism, the portable education and training account, the Digital Citizens Academy, the Circular Economy Plan, and another series of actions. The Rebrain Greece Hub aims at making these things a model for digital actions, and they can be funded by the upcoming European funds. And the manpower and the human capital is at the heart of this funding in order to help them recover from the financial impact of the COVID pandemic. It is true that the capitals to be disbursed or have already been announced but have not been finalized yet. If you don't have a specific mechanism that is already in place in order for you to claim those funds, then I'm afraid that you won't have the success that you would like. And I believe that the region of Western Greece, in collaboration with the main government, has such a mechanism in place. It's constantly being upgraded. It's true that we're not 100% ready. We are halfway there, and we will be ready to claim funds for digital economy, training, upskilling, and specific actions in the framework of digital economy. We have already come up with ways of claiming them. I must say that this is the result of teamwork. This is not just an achievement of the regional authority. We have the University of Patras, Research Education, Open University being involved, chambers, the Association of Industries. So you understand that teamwork is on the agenda, and this is an ongoing project. This is something that does not happen only at the local level. It's something that has expanded across 3 municipalities, 3 prefectures, and this means that our region focuses on all municipalities and prefectures, not just Patras. I would like to congratulate Ms. McCree, who is the head of this particular aspect. If I remember right, you have 2 transnational cooperation projects in the Interreg, Med, Balkan, etc. Everything for the past year, and some have received extension until 2021. It has been going smoothly. We have tried to ensure 100% absorption in all projects, but this means that we also need to have the outcomes disseminated among us, because sometimes one service does not know what the other service does, or a regional entity might not know what the others are doing. So we try to ensure that information is disseminated. We're not perfect. We try to improve our mistakes. We welcome your observations and remarks. The offices of deputy heads of region, mine included, are always open and forthcoming to your observations and remarks, because right now we're building the next NSRF for the next period, 2021-2027. Some things have already been discussed, and it is very important. This particular work that we're having today, maybe we could consider a different form or another proposal in order to include that with some variations in the next Interreg or in another upcoming project. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Amos.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Let's hope that we will be able to continue this work with another funding. We will continue with our conference. There is a slight change in the agenda. We will start with Mr. Stelios Koutrouminas, who is here physically with us, and he will talk about the energy digitization. Mr. Koutrouminas, you have the floor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to participate
in the Esmartcity project by using our products. I would like to start my presentation, and I think that I will talk in English because we have a lot of partners from abroad.
And not only with our products, but also with IoT and artificial intelligence, we try to improve these things. The future is presented here. I don't want to get in details on the technologies, but digitization is the way to make things happen, and this is where we focus. What we say from the beginning of our effort is that we can't manage what we cannot measure, and this is something that is necessary, and we try to overcome the different obstacles like problems with the connectivity. We try to make our products IoT ready. We use open systems. We don't try to have closed systems to lock our customers in our designs. We try to make products that are small, easy to install, and try to avoid the difficult things that the market has today. And of course, we try to lower the cost and lower the total cost of ownership with all the features and the product capabilities. As a company, we enable energy digitization by designing advanced energy meters like these devices I have here. These sensors are connected to the cloud, and there, when you collect the data, you can apply algorithms on the data to have intelligent actions. This is our biggest customers. We work with Department of Energy in US. EPRI is an institute in US that has evaluated our products and are using them in different projects. Honeywell is using our products for energy efficiency in their customers. TNB is a utility in Asia, in Malaysia. CLP in Hong Kong. Indra and Endesa are the Spanish, our Spanish customers, let's say our first customers actually, outside of Greece. EDP, another utility in Portugal who is using our street light controllers, and T-Mobile gave us their technology to do narrowband IoT ready products. The company was established in 2013, and we have already more than 10,000 units in the market around the world. These are our products. As you can see here, we started with meters, and as a next step, we go to street light controllers or a gateway that may need it or may not be needed, depending on the technologies and the networking capabilities that we have in our devices, and of course, the requirements of the customer and what they want to do. One of the most interesting things for the smart city, I believe, is the lights, the street light controllers. We feel that this is, we know that using LED lights in the city is an investment that pays back itself very fast, but our proposal is to extend this a bit and use the lights as a vehicle to make other things more attractive. And I will try to explain this in the next slides, but as you can see here, the street light controller can be used to collect data from parking sensors, for water meters, from waste management systems, from EV charging stations, etc. Today, what we see is usually for every different application, one different set of devices is used. Every device has its own connectivity. The platform collecting the data do something similar going on parallel. What we are trying to do is to change this, and using the street light controllers that cover the whole city to use this as an infrastructure where by enabling mesh networks to be able to collect data from other sensors like the pollution of the air, the weather condition, the water meters, the garbage collection systems, etc. We try to capitalize on existing IoT connectivity infrastructure coming from the mobile operators, and this way we can use the backbone network to collect the data from the other devices and send them all together to the cloud. This is an example. Different devices we see on the left can talk to the light controller, and then the controller can send the data to the cloud, having one platform to handle all the data. This is an example of how you can manage 70,000 lights in Portugal under one platform. You have the lights organized in clusters, groups, and devices, and of course there you can apply all the algorithms you want on the data to have better results. As you can see here, we have a tool that helps the operators to see how much they save by applying different profiles in every light, or in every group of light, or in every cluster of light. The controller is installed into the light, and then without doing anything, with zero installation effort, the device will handle the light by turning it off on the sunset and turning it off on the sunrise. Actually, sunset it turns it off, it turns it on. Without doing anything else, the device will start controlling the light. And then, of course, when you connect it to the network, you can perform much more functions on the light and increase economies or do other things for the connectivity. This is a pilot we have done with EDP in Portugal. They installed our lights and they implemented all these things I mentioned before. The next step for us is the development of a ultrasonic water meter. It is something that all the cities are also need in order to improve the efficiency of the water usage. So it is a very good fit because under every pole there is usually a few of the water meters, and this can work as a good example in our application. The ultrasonic water meters gives high accuracy, so we can help the citizens to save when there are leakages and other things in the city. We can use on-off functionality next to the water meter so that we can act when the user is not at the home and can have extra features. Some other examples, especially from the project we work with the region of Western Greece, is after getting the data, you can apply for energy forecasting algorithms and try to help the building owners to understand problems in the building or understand the consumption of their air conditioning or heating units. This is an example of a school that we measure and the data we have in a very quick way, so you can see how it goes within a week. The weekend is here, and you see how the consumption is going the whole week. And the next thing for us is electric vehicles, something that Greece is investing a lot recently. We believe that with our products we can offer extra features in what is going on. We have abilities to see which car will charge and do other things that will be very interesting, especially in a country like Greece where our DSO is not easy to increase the investments and support every car owner, every EV owner for better user experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Koutroubinas. It's very interesting for us to see that except the smart energy meters that we have experienced here in the region of Western Greece, you have you're trying to develop in other smart meters. Next presentation is coming from Mr. Xouris. It's about smart farming because smart cities and smart saving is not only buildings and streets lighting and cycle economy. We hear these 2 days, but also farming cannot be forget, especially here in our region where a lot of agriculture is going on. So we're very pleased to hear Mr. Xouris about smart farming application.
Okay, hello from me. I don't know if the presentation is ready. Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Chris Xouris. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Gia Robotics. Gia Robotics is an innovative SME, an ICT company with a strong focus on precision agriculture. So I'm going to start my presentation by first of all discussing why agriculture is so important. Apart from the obvious, that it is very important for every one of us, we can see that there is a trend, an increase in agricultural goods. It is projected to reach $8.8 trillion, the global agricultural trade in 2030, from $2.8 trillion in 2010. 15% of the global workforce works in agriculture. And all this time, only 10% of the available land is arable. There are a lot of challenges facing agriculture. Right now, as we speak, 1.5 billion people are not fed properly. And each year, another 105 million people are added to this populace. So you can see that the challenges are very important. But let's focus 1 minute in Greece. Greece is a country that in 1970 was self-sufficient regarding agricultural products. In 2017, there was a 7 billion euros imports deficit only from agricultural products, and it is projected to reach 13 billion euros in 2025. So we can see that there is a problem there that is getting bigger each year, and if we see the projections 2050 and we add the challenges that we face from climate change, we can see that 95% of crops in Greece is going to be affected from climate change. And so to the estimated production losses due to diseases is going to be added another 25%, which is going to be production losses due to climate change. So the Greek agriculture production, which is already facing a competitive disadvantage, for example, you can see the average production of canning tomato in Greece, it's 71 tons per hectare, while the worldwide average production is 120 tons. So we see a 40% difference. At the same time, the agronomists per million inhabitants in Greece are one of the highest percentages in the world. So what is the reason for this competitive disadvantage, and what can we do, most importantly, to solve it? Well, to face this problem and solve it, we have to identify the crucial points in agriculture improvement chain. You can see the points in my presentation, but what is going to kickstart the value chain is information. So the main question is how we can use ICT technologies to optimize the agri-food chain. Our main goal is to implement digital agriculture in Greece and globally. What is digital agriculture? In one word, it is moving from traditional methods of doing our agricultural practices through digitalization to a new way of working, which is digital agriculture. This process is called digital transformation or smart farming. So how are we going to achieve that? All this process started around 30 years ago with the advent of the IoT sensors. The IoT sensors enabled us to count several plant characteristics that are very important for crop monitoring, like the ones that you can see here. And one estimation estimated that we managed to gather with the plant sensors around 0.5 kilobyte per plant per year of data, useful data that help us see what's going on with our crops. But we need to move in the future. In the future, we should also see new technologies like multispectral imaging. What is multispectral imaging? Multispectral imaging works with the way plant works. A plant absorbs sunlight, but it doesn't absorb all the sunlight. It absorbs certain spectrums of it and reflects some others, mainly the near-infrared part of the light spectrum. So if we manage in some way to measure the light reflected from the leaves, then we can see the chemical composition of the plants. And in second thoughts, then we can see what are the problems and how we can solve them. How do we measure the reflectance of plants? We use several specific scientific multispectral sensors, which are sensors that can detect the reflectance of several bands that are very useful for us because they can give us useful indexes like plant chlorophyll percentage. Chlorophyll is very important because it is responsible for photosynthesis, and many other stressors that affect our production. So if we move to the next slide, we can see that by using the new technologies, and mainly the sensors that we analyzed before, and also UAV technology, satellites, and IoT technologies, we can move, and right now we can gather an estimated 6.1 kilobytes per year per plant of useful data. That's a 12-fold increase in relation to the data we gathered before. So all this data can reveal much more and can enable us to have preemptive actions. They can enable prognosis of diseases and not wait until the disease is spread, we have a lot of damage in our crop, and then we do our actions. So, Gear Robotics has developed a software as a service platform. It's a platform based on cloud technology, which ensures the best results from all this data. Data collection, as we analyzed before, is achieved through a broad set of technological tools, such as the multispectral sensors, satellite imaging, also a wealth of additional IoT data. After data collection is completed, data are automatically uploaded and processed by our proprietary platform, and then they are visualized in a plethora of informative health maps that reveal what's going on with our crops. And the most important part is they reveal what happens in our crops when all these problems are not visible to the human eye. Another important part is that with the usage of all these technologies, we can analyze 100 acres field in 15 minutes. The steps are visualized here in the slide, but the most important is to realize that if an agronomist or a producer would like to inspect such a field, it would take him at least 2 or 3 days in the sunlight, and even then he wouldn't be able to inspect every single plant. So the advantages are more than obvious. Moreover, if you create a connected platform that is accessible to both farmers and agronomists, you have a lot of advantages. By using multispectral imaging, as we can see, we can monitor the plant growth, we can detect early plant diseases, we can optimize our nutrient and inputs that we need to input to the crop. We can also estimate and see the effects of pesticide spraying, and then optimize our production. And by using business intelligence and analytics, we can also record all this measurement and use all the historical data for yield prediction and for better agricultural practice in the future. The better communication that is facilitated with such a platform between the farmers and the agronomists is also another added advantage. So, if we see the risk profile of a small farmer, this also applies to a small agricultural company. We can see that a farmer, while he's working his crop, he has a lot of risk to be aware of. Some of the risks are risks that cannot be addressed with ICT technologies. We can't still control the weather, but we can predict the weather. And the same applies to diseases. So if we enable the farmer to predict diseases, in essence, what do? We lower his risk. So, if we see the analysis here, by mitigating this risk, we can, by using ICT technologies, optimize the risk profile of a farmer or a small company by up to 33%. That is a huge increase. And it's very important for the farmers, especially if we take into our consideration the points that I analyzed before regarding climate change and the challenges that producers and agronomists face. So to end my presentation, I would like to show you some successful projects with partners that we have completed in the area, in the region of Western Greece. The first project that I would like to share is our collaboration with Kyknos Canning Company. Kyknos is the oldest canning company in Greece. It's a producer of canning tomato, and this project that we have completed in the past 3 years is the biggest project in Greece, completed either by a public or a private sector company regarding multispectral imaging and crop monitoring. Here in the left you can see a plant health map. This map is derived by our platform. And in the areas that I have highlighted, you can see that these red areas are, in essence, problems in the crop that can't be visible by the human eye. So, when we find a problem in a particular point, that is a disease, we can prevent this problem, which is a Phytophthora disease. It's a very destructive disease. It can destroy your crop in 5 days. So if you give an earlier warning to the producer, he can save his crop, and also he doesn't have to spray pesticide to the whole crop. He only needs to go to the target area. In the bottom area, you can also see that there seem to be some problems in the bottom of the field. This is highlighted to show the accuracy of multispectral data. The crop there are plants that have more dust on their leaves due to the proximity to the dirt road, and so they can perform photosynthesis well. We can even see this level of detail by working. And all this project was around 2,000 acres of cultivated land that we monitor every year. Moving on, I'm going to talk about our collaboration with Orphanos Estate. It's a winery. It's also in the region of Western Greece. Mr. Orphanos is a very experienced viticulturist. Our collaboration is ongoing, and you can see here that we managed to map the weeds that he had in a 40-acre vineyard in just 10 minutes, when this procedure is very work intensive and it needs to be done in the sun. So we help him pinpoint the exact problems that he has in his vineyard, and also in the right key area you can see that we also detected a new disease starting to affect the vines, and we enabled the viticulturists to go and perform specialized techniques only in this part of his vineyard. Lastly, I would like to talk about our participation in My Olive Grove Coach. My Olive Grove Coach is a risk action. It is funded by EU funds, and it's under the supervision of a region of Western Greece. The consortium is comprised by GEA Robotics as a coordinator, Industrial System Institute, Irida Labs, and Papadopoulos Olive Oil Mill. These are all research centers and companies of the region of Western Greece. The aim of the project is to create a platform that will help producers and agronomists assess verticillium, which is a very serious disease that's affecting olive trees in the region of Western Greece and in Greece in general. As you can see in the map, we managed to detect early and accurate determine which olives had problems with verticillium, but also we managed to find other diseases that are serious, like gliosporium, which is also a disease that has affected producers in the region of Western Greece. So this is a project that has a lot of potential, and we aim to follow it in the future. With this I conclude. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Xouris. It's really interesting to see that all the work that you have done and can be applied in real agriculture, tomatoes, olive leaves, wineries. region of Western Greece has invested in agriculture. We have the agri-food partnership here in the region of Western Greece, and it would be very nice to try to convince farmers to go to digital smart farming. Thank you once more, and we now proceed with the next presentation, coming from Professor Giorgos Stefanidis. Professor Giorgos Stefanidis is in the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Patras, and we hear his presentation on readiness index in smart cities and smart regions. Thank you, Mr. Stefanidis. When you're ready, we can start.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind invitation here today. I'm going to talk about a subject that is part of the preparation for planning and strategizing in smart cities and smart regions. While we cover this topic, we should keep in mind that at the same time, we can think about the technical aspects of what we cover. And we will come back to the technical aspects only towards the end, because I'd like to cover as much as possible the process, because this is what is important, but the process is transferable. Also I'd like to say that this is the result of an ongoing set of projects that are primarily performed with our colleagues in the United States, but with an eye to transferring. It's fully transferable to any city around the world. Okay. Fine. So let's look at the goal that we have. So what is the goal? The goal is to implement safe transport systems at reduced risk in a circular economy. And we address this need both in smart cities and smart regions. And we'd like to, because of the need to be kind of specific and think about it more easily, we emphasize the road network at this point and the interactions that may exist within a city and within the regional hubs in a region. So becoming very specific, but not losing the general aspect of the pattern of the process. We would like to implement safe systems that include both passengers and freight movements. For instance, for tourism or business logistics, smart hubs, and so on, covering also regional trips, deliveries, and all of these integrated in a regional economy. Why is this possible here? I just move also here locally. Why is it important and possible to transfer in this area? Because this area is already mature. We have gone through a process of establishing the Patras Smart and then the digital cities, following our development of the national ITS strategy and architecture for Greece and other countries as well. So we already have a process that was initiated 5 years ago in Patras Smart, and the strategy for it has been completed. As a result, the Patras city was placed third in Europe in the first wave of digital cities, and all of this lends maturity to the region of Western Greece. So if we look at a specific example, which is how would we create a readiness index for one specific aspect of what we're talking about, and this is the connected intelligent transportation services, which are implemented through automation, intelligence, sensors technology, operations for transit freight, and non-motorized uses. Okay, the first point is in the process is to establish the ecosystem that includes the stakeholders within the concept. So in this particular concept, we have not just the quadruple or even more, but actually it's a complete ecosystem that includes providers of hardware, software, connectivity, service, and so on, and also technology users and technologies that include the cloud, big data, cybersecurity, human-machine interface, and so on. So all of these have to be first defined, and we have the appropriate ecosystem. Here's a key aspect of the process, and we can see that the process is based on the initial seminal work by Cohen a few years ago. So it is exactly as we see it. It is something that opens up from the center. So if we want to have a smart city or a smart region, then we go and identify what is important for us within the circular economy. For instance, what could be important: reliability, resilience, and reduction of vulnerability. And what are the categories that are important initially for us? So these are, we have defined environment, mobility, government, economy, people, and living. So if you can look, I'm not sure it's easily read, but anyway, this is the first ring, and then for each of these, we have to define subsectors. So for instance, the smart economy includes entrepreneurship and innovation, productivity, and local and global interconnectedness. And based on that, we have to define our indicators, because the indicators are going to follow us until the end, where we decide whether we have achieved what we wanted to achieve. So the monitoring of the process is going to be based on the indicators that we define. Okay, so the circular economy framework that we need has to define the objectives, has to define the critical infrastructure in a region, the vulnerabilities, the interdependencies, the effects on the circular economy, and what we can do in terms of modeling and optimizing the process. Okay, so this is an example, and this is, don't worry, you don't have to read this at all, but I'm just using it to help me talk. Okay, so we define, let's say, a readiness index, and that's only for connected and automated vehicles, but also we could have a readiness index for each aspect that is important for us. So then we define one of these different elements that are important. So these are, for instance, transportation infrastructure, cyber infrastructure, public transport, non-motorized transport, land use, urban freight movement, and resilience. Then we take one of these, and for instance, we're interested in public transport and non-motorized. Then what does this cover? It covers bus and feeder services, walking, bike, and also e-bike and so on. So for each one of these, we have to identify the subclasses. And in this way, we're going to create this readiness index, because we're going to evaluate an area depending on how well they do in each of these. So now we come to the nuts and bolts. That is, this is non-technical. It is actual. It is what we ask each responded to see and answer. So we ask questions such as, for hard infrastructure, for instance, is the road signage high quality? Is the parking high quality? Do we have sensors? For cyber infrastructure, what are the communications? What is the state of vehicle-to-vehicle communications? What is the high resolution of maps? Okay. Another one is for policy and regulations. What are the driving regulations, testing regulations, parking privileges, tolling privileges? Are there reduced fees for certain users? Do we have a way to maintain the existing signs and so on? So all of these questions have to be answered in order to, in the end, have an index. Okay, and that is the readiness index. There is another index that follows that. I'm not going to cover it today, But the next step that we have is which algorithms or tools or methods can cities and regions find to mitigate the risk in implementing what you want to implement. In this case, connected and automated vehicles. So it's a kind of a library, a market library that then automatically, based on your readiness and based on what is available, then it tells you what you can go and use. So for instance, in this case, in the case of hybrid road transport, it's important because until that point in time comes that all the vehicles out there are connected and automated, we're going to have a hybrid fleet. Therefore, and that's important in a circular economy because if we don't treat that carefully, then we're going to have a lot of waste. So in this case, we go and find that if that is what we need, we go and find what exists in the market to measure velocity, headways, lane changes, what is the risk of what is available. So I'm almost finishing now, and I'd like to finish with a technical aspect. So let's say then we move to this second element, which is having already graded ourselves using this index, which is transferable to any city or region. Then we ask for the market to see what is available for us. So here is then for each available product or method, then the method goes and indicates what you would have to find. So in this case, this is an application from the national road, the Athens to Thessaloniki. You would have to look at the market, and here's a product that can measure for you flow, the speed, the vehicle length, classification, occupancy, level of service, and accidents, and so on. So for each one, it goes and finds these and advises you if you can go out and find this for your application. So if today we would say that we need something like this in Patras, then number one, we would go first and grade ourselves in the readiness index. And then this method would go and tell you, okay, so you can find these methods, these algorithms, and so on for Patras. And I'm just finishing with this example. There are a couple of examples that we have in the area. One that I'm not covering here is one that we called, it's a Greece-Cyprus program that is based on interconnected buildings. That is a program called Autonomo. There's another program that it has come very near to Patras. It is actually based on the SEA in Aegio, where we have just finished the establishment of a safe and secure facility for trackers. It's good. This is a directive of the European Union, and it soon will be obligatory. And that in itself is integrated within, through a project called Crocodile 2, within the appropriate network in Europe. That's what you see in CEF. So I'm finished. This is just a picture of our deliberations in Patras at the municipality while we were developing Patras Smart. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Stefanidis. It's really interesting to see that and realize that indexes, that many times in what we want to achieve, we forget to establish indexes and to know what we want to achieve. So I think you presented in a very nice and clear way that if we have established indexes, then we can implement what we want in a more adequate and proper way. Maybe sometimes indexes look or seem that a little bit boring procedure, but I think it's clear that are very helpful and really demanding in all implementation things. Now there is a technical problem, unfortunately, with the first presentation of this session that was to be done by Mrs. Eleni Tsipouri. Eleni Tsipouri is a professor in the Department of Economics in the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens. She apologizes for the unexpected technical problem that she couldn't connect and share her presentation. But I think they have an intervention by Mr. Karadzias, who is watching us today. He wants to just say us something connected with our Esmartcity project and all these things. Mr. Karadzias, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes. So, hello, I am Stylianos Karadzias. I am Head of Research Programs at the Department of Political Engineering. This is moderated and coordinated by Mr. Haskiakos. It focuses on smart infrastructure in the context of smart cities. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving me the floor today, and I would like to make a brief reference to this topic and extend an invitation. Well, we know that there's an increasing need of having interconnected systems in those cities. This is also obvious in the community directives. This is also an eligibility criteria in some research proposals. This means that we don't need only detached systems, no matter how smart they are, because at the end of the day, this is not what we need. We also need to lay special emphasis on the interoperability of those systems. It is in this context that our laboratory, through Horizon 2020, coordinated and procured financing for a synergy of 18 EU countries that lays emphasis on synergies, interoperability, and the human factor. The goal is to manage energy in buildings and cities. Well, this project is innovative. It will start as of next November, and we want to develop digital systems that will allow the real-time support of decision-making for all the functions of a city, including parameters from production and consumption of energy, RES-derived energy, electromobility, interconnection with the energy markets. So it creates the digital twin of the end user and the digital twin of a city. This means that we optimize energy consumption, always considering the true needs of citizens. This is a project that will be implemented across 4 thematic fields in Greece, Bulgaria and the United Kingdom. I don't want to bore you with further details. However, I would like to thank you once more, and I would also like to invite local authorities to collaborate with us in order for us to disseminate the project results over the next months. And I would also like to encourage new initiatives and the participation, for your participation in the new initiatives. Esmartcity communities, this will be part of the upcoming Horizon Europe. Thank you very much. It will be with great pleasure that we will receive your latest updates. Good luck with that. We want you to keep us posted about what's happening. I don't know if there are any other questions. I think not. Thank you all for joining us here today. I'm sure that we listened to many interesting things about smart cities. I believe that we all learned something new. All the presentations and the conference are available online on the YouTube channels of the Esmartcity project, on the YouTube channel of the region of Western Greece, as well as to the Root Lab YouTube channel that you have received, those of you who have sent invitations to requests to connect. We'll be more than happy to welcome you in our next meetings. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you all for joining us. Thank you.